Welcome everyone to our session, our shared learning event today around grant fundraising. This is specifically for those new to this area, but hopefully even if you have some experience that you find it helpful and that will help you develop your approach and just gain some confidence. My name is Deana Owen and I'm a development support manager at Cymru Africa. I'm joined by my colleague Julian Rosser, who is Senior Development Support Manager. And I do think we also have our two new team members joining us this evening, Simeon and Mario Luva. If you'd like to give a wave, yeah, we're really excited to have you on board now. And then, of course, a special welcome to our new two speakers, Deana Owen and Geoff Lloyd, two, yeah, thanks, two practitioners in the Wales and Africa community who kindly offered to speak about their journey of fundraising and grant fundraising in particular. So we will hear from them later on. I'm going to make a start with some brief housekeeping points. Yeah, just a quick note that the session is being recorded, so people can catch up with it later. If you'd like to introduce yourself, you're very welcome to. You can put your name and organization in the chat. You can also use that chat for questions. There will be space to address those after all the speaking. And yeah, Julian is going to keep an eye on it. So yeah, don't worry. There will be time, hopefully. I'll make sure. If you could mute yourself during the session, that would be really helpful to avoid any background noise, any disturbance, because we are a few today. And lastly, I don't really expect safeguarding to be a sensitive topic, but still to say that this is a safe space for minoritized people, and we don't tolerate any form of abuse. If there are any safeguarding complaints you would like to make after the event, please contact Claire O'Shea at hubcymruafrica.wales. All right. So our agenda is, yeah, it's quite a packed program today, but we've already ticked off housekeeping, yay. And then I am going to go through some basics of grant fundraising before we have two, case studies. Deana and Geoff will share some of their grant fundraising journey. Sorry, I can't hear. Please mute yourself. That would be great. Thank you. Okay, so this is going to be a recap of what we consider key elements of grant fundraising. I'm starting with a brief overview of the areas I'm going to cover today. I should always start with decent project planning before you're going on to finding suitable funders. So we will show you where to look for those, and once you've found them, how to approach them. And in this context, we will speak about concept notes. Maintaining relationships is an important part of successful grant fundraising, but I won't dwell on it today due to lack of time. I do believe Deana and Geoff have something to say about that as well. So maintaining relationships with funders. And then upscaling will also be brief. It's basically what to consider if you feel ready, when you feel ready to apply for larger grants. And lastly, I will signpost you to some resources, some further resources. Okay, so first things first, before you start applying, fundamental to your application and work in general is a robust project plan. We can't stretch that enough. It should, this is not a project management course, obviously, so I can't go into a lot of detail, but I do want to mention what a sensible project plan covers. So it should always be based on a thorough needs assessment. You need to be clear around your goals, your outcomes, and your activities. You also have to have systems for what we call MEAL. That's short for monitoring, evaluation, assessment, and learning. And of course, a budget is also required. With all this, please be led by your local partners. That's obviously very much best practice. And I hope most of you are aware that the Hub Cymru Africa have launched an anti-racism charter. Of course, we always encourage everyone to sign up to that. And yeah, it does apply to this topic as well, to writing a project plan and application. So following an anti-racist principles, your project plan and application will be jointly developed with African-based partners. So go beyond consultation. It will prioritize in-country expertise and knowledge. Participatory elements should be included throughout the process to ensure that community members representing the whole of the community thoroughly engaged throughout the whole process. And as you want to have a lasting impact, I'm going to assume that it is important to come up with a strategy for the long term without the need for you to be involved in the long term. So we can call that an exit strategy. So there's, of course, a lot to say on this in theory, but yeah, I'll keep it to these key points in a nutshell. Now, finding funders. How can you find funders willing to finance your cause? A starting point can be the Hub Cymru Africa website, because we do have a section there on funding opportunities. I think I'm just going to demonstrate that. I think that's the easiest. So I will go on the website in a second. So it always takes a second to share a different page. Okay, can you see that? Great. I'm going back to the start page. So this is the start page of Hub Cymru Africa. It's website. It's just to show you how to get there. If you see the Get Support button in the corner, hover over it and then go to the right and you click on funding opportunities, and then we're here. And that's hopefully a useful tool. There's a search function here, and on the left you can use filters, so you can sort it by date, when it was added, or by the deadline. There's also themes to choose, and you can further filter it by size, by status, and by region. And yeah, then you'll have a comprehensive list. Do bear in mind this is still it's a bit of a work in progress, especially at the moment, as we recently relaunched, as you may see if you haven't been on our new website. So yeah, more will be added. Well, it will be updated regularly anyway, but it may not be complete right now. So yeah, watch this space. It's worth it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my slides. I don't think you can see that now, can you?
Brilliant. Can see your slides.
Yeah, can see the beginning though again, right? So I have to go back to where we were. Oh, that's...
We'll cope, I'm sure.
Okay, good. All right, back to where we were. Yeah, about our website. It will be worth signing up to our newsletter, because then you don't have to go on there all the time, but you will actually receive regular updates. So when you sign up to our newsletter, so it's just a general signing up page basically, and but yeah, you can choose, you can select that you're interested in fundraising, and then you will get the fundraising updates. That's how it works. Yeah, of course, that's only one source. There's a whole lot more. There's bonds database as well. So bond is the equivalent over in England, which probably most of you know. So there's a link here, but I'm not going to go on it to not make it complicated. Charity excellence, I have heard, is very useful. for finding funding. And the third one, I think, is mainly for elements of work that are delivered within Wales. But as we know, like some funders are interested in that if you have if that's part of your program. So this is just a few examples. It's obviously we couldn't cover everything here, but we will. I'll say more about that for now, but I know it can be overwhelming with how much there is out there. So hopefully these are some starting points. And then once you have found, identified suitable organizations, you need to find out what is required to apply with them, because there's a whole spectrum on that, what they ask for. It can sometimes be a very structured process. And sometimes they will just want you to submit an A4 page summarizing your project. And just to illustrate, there are two examples here. There's the Education Opportunity Foundation and the Suter Charitable Trust. I think I'll go on these again to go on the website because it might be useful for you to see what it can look like. Okay, so the Education Opportunity Foundation was formerly known as the British Foreign School Society, so you may know it by that name still. Has buttons up here. If you go to grants, then you can see there is here it says supports UK and international projects, and you can click on that. Takes you to this page where you can select international projects, and then you get to the criteria and eligibility here. Really find all the information you need. So what kind of projects they will fund, the priorities, what they don't fund, that's also useful starting point if you want to save some time. And who can apply, of course, very crucial. Once you feel ready to apply, you can click apply here, and then you can find out that there's actually two stages, stage 1 application, stage 2. So it's a process, but it takes you through it. There's forms, the application form, there's guidance notes and templates, and you just have to, it's just an exercise really, form filling exercise. The other one, the other example is the Sutu Charitable Trust. I will also show you the website. I don't know if you can see that still. Can you say something? Not just say give me a thumbs up because I can't see you right now. But
can't see what you're linking to at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. I need to resharing. Okay. Okay. Should be okay now. Yes. Can I get some
Yes.
else? Okay, great.
It's okay. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so the Suter Charitable Trust, I believe that's how you say it, or something like that, is something much smaller. I think they're Scottish. So it's just an example for a trust that works differently. You can go on guidelines up here. That's where they hide their information. And then everything you really need to know is on one page. And then really just to encourage you to read it carefully. And you will learn that for example, funds are restricted to UK registered charities only. So that's, basically saying that your competition is constrained. So and that application should be kept short to size of A4 is sufficient, and that there's no application form required. So all you do is prepare your application and send it to the address given here. So that's how it works for them. And you just need to explore the websites, and they will tell you what to do. Sorry, going back to my slides. I need to start. This is a lot of going back and forth, I'm realizing, but I try to make it useful for you by demonstrating. Okay. So now we are here. Basically, that type of funder that I just showed you, this small trust, is asking for a concept note. And it may sound fancy. It's just a name for what is a brief summary of your project idea. A minimum of one A4 page. Otherwise, not there's no specific format. It's a really useful tool to prepare before you start applying. It can also help you gain clarity on your project. So I would definitely say it's worth writing one. I'm going to switch back to a tip sheet that is available on our website, on the Housekeeping Africa website, and that should help you to get started. One second.
Nice to see everybody's faces for a moment.
Yeah. I hope you're not getting dizzy from all the switching back and forth. Okay. Yes, I think you can see that. Although I need to download the tip sheet. Oh, can you still see that?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Oh, for once, it stays on there. Okay, so a concept note. Yeah, as I said, has no standard length, no specific format, but yeah, roughly at least one page. And there are specific elements that you should include. There should always be a title. And then it goes on to a brief description of your organization and project. So it's kind of a teaser at the beginning. Focus on what does it say? Who, what, where, why, and how. Really briefly. Then you should spend some time on the needs assessment, as that is fundamental. So describe what the community you'd like to, or you are working in, the problem that's there, and how it impacts on the community. And very importantly, how did you find out that this project was needed? And any methods you used, and the individuals, the community members, or anyone you spoke to. Should describe that. Based on these identified needs, you will then want to state your goal, the goal of your project, and the outcomes of the project, which is basically one level down. And how you're going to do that through activities. That's the next section. So it's really broken it down. What you're actually going to do, and how you will know that you're successful. So what are your methods of measuring your impact and your success? Describe any tools here, and don't forget about your timeline. And next thing, you can speak about what you actually, when all this is successful, hoping to achieve and reach, and how will you know? And then there should be a whole section on your organization with all the key information and your experience, and the essential partnerships, the history of that, and what kind of track record you can actually present. And don't forget your budget and contact information. So that's just a run through. No more time tonight to talk about this, but we just really want to encourage considering preparing something like that, if you're first starting, or even if you're already further down the journey. Okay, one last switch back to my presentation. Okay. Okay, I'm almost done with my part. Just one slide on the scenario that you'd like to apply for larger projects, there are some grant giving organizations that require you to have particular policies in place. So that's just something to bear in mind. This is a list of of policies that are typically expected and asked for. It's not complete, so don't hold me to account, please. But yeah, it should give you an idea of what may be required. And yeah, there's a lot more to learn. There's a variety of videos available on the Hub Africa YouTube channel, because we usually record our sessions, the training sessions, and all shared learning events or something like that, and put them on our channel. So that's actually really useful because they're still relevant, and we make sure, that if they're still on there, they should still be relevant. So in the last few years, there's quite a number available. These are just 3 examples. They could cover common mistakes made in funding applications. There's one session, for example, on the benefit to Wales aspect of the Welsh Government Wales in Africa grant scheme. And a whole lot more. And I will share a resource after this session with a list that basically shows all the different sessions and what they're kind of briefly what they're about. So you don't even have to click on all of them. So that hopefully will help you navigating that. Lastly, to remind you that if you do need, if you're looking for, bespoke support, Upcoming Africa's team of development support managers, including myself and Julian and Simeon now and Emma, are here to provide free one-to-one advice. So that can cover not just fundraising, it can also cover communications or how you'd like to implement your anti-racism strategy, things like that. But yeah, even in this context as well, we will review your application and offer suggestions. We can help you develop a project plan or concept note. We can also support you with developing a fundraising strategy. So yeah, that's all possible and within our setup. So just send us an email to advice email address on the slide, and you can book a session with us and we can discuss what you need. All right, I think I'm done with it. Feels like I've talked forever. It's time for our case studies now. So Deana and Geoff are both here. I would say, Deana, why don't you make a start, and then Geoff after that. So thank you, and over to you.
Okay. Good evening. Can I have a screen share? Okay. Can you see the screen?
I think it's coming. Yep, we can see that. Thanks, Deana.
Yep. Excellent. Good, you can see that. Right, I'm Deana Owen. I run a small charity based in Byd-eang, and we help in a small area of Zambia. We help with education, health, and agriculture. We've been going since 2012, so I have done a very large number of funding applications. And some of them have been successful. So thank you for inviting me to come and talk to you tonight. In terms of finding funders, I look, my special way of finding funders is to look at charities that are doing similar work to Friends of Monze, perhaps in the same area. And some charities will have a list of who has funded them. And so I copy their lists of where they're getting funding. the hub emails I get, I'm on the emailing list, so I always look through that for funders. When it comes to funding, I would say research a lot what the funders do and don't do. I spend a lot of time looking at their websites. In terms of writing your application, there's I don't know if any of you have seen the Oxfam guide to what language to use. I was quite shocked one time to discover I wasn't using appropriate language. And it's important to be using the right terms. I also look at other charities' websites, and they give me inspiration for how to put things. When it comes to preparing the project plan, we're always talking to our partners. I think there's no substitute to spending a lot of time talking to your partners. I've been very fortunate that apart from COVID, I've been able to go every year and see our partners and really get to know them and get to know the situation on the ground. Also, there's other stakeholders that can make a difference to the project. They can be helpful or they can delay things. For example, we've been trying to do school feeding at the moment, and we found that we needed to get permission from the Department of Education in the capital, Lusaka. And it's been very long-winded. Another stakeholder we deal with is the traditional leaders. The chiefs have to give permission for the land to be used for education. Really, I would say spending a lot of time understanding your project and possible problems. So you know what problems your partner's going to be dealing with when it comes to delivering the project. We're building a school at the moment, and any more rain and lorries won't be able to get through to deliver building materials. So we know we've had to get the building materials on site before there's much rain. You know, it's good to know the problems that at the moment there's only 3 hours in 24 of electricity in Zambia. So again, knowing the problems, it's not always easy to talk to people. They just can't get their mobile phones charged, things like that. In terms of writing the project plan, if you can have more than one reason for doing a project, then it gives the funder more than one reason to be funding you. For example, if we're providing a solar water pump, it's a big project. It's something like £5,000. But if we say we're going to provide hygiene training, 3 days hygiene training, only £300. But it means that I can talk in the application about all the diseases that the hygiene training is going to be preventing. So sometimes it's worth adding something extra onto the project like that. You're not just providing water for the garden to grow food and agriculture, you're providing water for hygiene. Lena was saying your unique selling point. Make sure that you talk about your unique selling point, like being run by volunteers. So all donations are used for the project. I was quite surprised a few years ago. I was raising money for a UK charity and discovered how much the administrators were getting paid, which made a difference to how much I wanted to give. So if you can say we're volunteer run, the unique selling point of Friends of Monze is that we're Quaker run and led. So anything that's special about you is make the most of it. In terms of doing applications, I get perhaps 1 in 10 success rate. If you imagine you're going to apply for a project, therefore if you get expecting a 1 in 10 success rate, apply to 10 funders for that one project. Don't apply to one, and then 6 months later they say no, or haven't replied even, and then you're going to apply to someone else, do them all at once. We have had 2 lots of funding for one garden, and I just wrote to one of the donors and said, can we use the funds for another school garden, not the one we originally applied for? And they said yes. So yeah, don't sit around waiting for results. With the application form, a shortcut, most of the charities' application forms say, what are your purposes and mission? And they say a certain number of words. I've already got it prepared, a 30-word charity's mission, a 5-word charity's mission. So, I've got them ready. When you're doing the application letter, font size should be 12. It's no good cheating and making it 10. And always check how many pages they've asked for, 1 page, 2 page, or 3 pages. If your project's got a title, think big. We want some money to fence a garden, but it sounds quite ordinary to say we're going to fence a garden. But if we say we're going to improve nutrition for the next generation, then that sounds a much bigger and better thing. So always look big. You're going to improve income for the next generation. You're going to enhance farming activities. You're only going to fence a garden, but really what you're aiming for is those big things. So big title. Always tailoring to what the funder wants and thinking of the legacy of the project. As Lena was saying, I break the letter down to setting the scene. It's easy to not do the obvious. Oh, I've run out of time. I'll be quick. It's easy to not do the obvious and tell people it's not raining in Zambia. You forget that people don't know these things. You take it for granted. Usually, in terms of the budget, usually it's very brief, but make sure that you've allowed for everything. I add a contingency, 10% for inflation and changes in the exchange rate. And there are times we've needed more than that. The exchange rate can plummet, inflation can go up. I always add a charity contribution, even if it's a small amount, £50 or £200. This is the Friends of Monze contribution to this project. Have your policies ready. Lena didn't mention reserves policy. A lot of charities ask for reserves policy. Have them signed with your charity name on, so they're ready to go, and the Charity Commission registration certificates ready with your charity name on. Okay. Listen to your partners. A project may need to be cancelled. We had to cancel a project one time and return the money, and we lost money on it because of changes in the exchange rate. But you have to be led by your partners, and if they say the community is not cooperating, this isn't going to work, then I would say go ahead. But if the partners say no, pull it, then you've got to do it. If things are not going right, you have to tell them, your donors, we've got a dry borehole at the moment and we cannot do a school garden that we've got funding for. It's breaking my heart. Check what you'll need for the monitor and evaluation before you start. It's very easy to forget to take photos of a bare garden with nothing in it, but you must have the photos before to appreciate the photos after. If you're going to need consent for photos of children, you need to know beforehand. Okay, thank you very much for listening to me.
Thanks, Deana. Oh, it goes by so quick. Here's my voice. Okay, right. I think we'll just go over to you, Geoff, now, and I will share your document. And yeah, again, any questions for a bit of time later. Thanks so much, Deana. Okay. You're welcome to start, Geoff. We can't hear you. You're muted. Sorry, I can see you talking.
Okay, can you all hear me now? Hi,
Yes.
good evening.
Yeah.
Hiya.
Hello.
I'm Dr. Geoff Lloyd from PONT. I'm a GP in Pontypridd. I'm going to keep this very quick because I know that Rina wanted to take time for questions. So I'm going to give you a very whistle-stop tour of our funding in PONT. We've been going for 20 years now. We have lots of different projects, but the major funding that we've had is for the healthcare projects. We have set out to establish a primary healthcare service for 2 million people, backed up by a motorbike ambulance service, and that's grown over the 20 years. However, we obviously started off small 20 years ago. Our first annual budget was £8,000. So the first important lesson is start small but think big. And if your African partners are people you can trust and invest in, and they ask you to keep going, then keep going with them. We owe it to them in Africa to do everything we can to try and help them to help themselves. So I've divided my talk into two bits: development funding and sustainable funding. The development funding is for new projects, in our case, training new health workers, buying motorbike ambulances, and so on. The sustainable funding, of course, is really important, how to keep it going. Lots of funders are happy to give you the setup funding, but are not very happy to give you the funding to continue projects going. So you need to have a strategy that balances both between development and sustainability. In terms of where we've had the development funding from over the years, historically, we've had a great relationship with the Welsh Government that then became Hub Cymru Africa. But in recent years, because of cutbacks in Welsh Government funding and increased competition, we often go year after year now without getting any funding from the Welsh Government. So I would urge all of you not to be disappointed if you don't get funding from the Welsh Government, but to look at other parts of the strategy that I'm setting out rather than be discouraged. Historically, again, we've had a lot of funding from DFID when there was a DFID, a Department for International Development, but sadly that's been done away with by the last government. And very sadly, the 0.7% of GDP that was allocated for overseas aid has been cut back to 0.5%. And an awful lot of that now has gone to Ukraine and to the Middle East. And so there's a fraction of the funding left from central government that there used to be. SET is a good organisation to look at if you've not worked with them before and you do health projects. And we've had a fair few funds from SET. Some of the best funding that we've had was for collaborative funding, where they asked us to get together with other organisations and put in a joint bid. And I can see Gordon and Hilary on the screen, and I think Jenny's around as well. And in the past, we've actually done this with 4 different links coming together and applying jointly for funding. I would love to do this again in the future. And if any of you run primary healthcare, and especially if you've got ambulances as part of it too, I'd love to talk with you in the future about collaborative funding and to apply together. Trust funds, you all get the list from the Welsh Government through Hub Cymru Africa. All I say is that they're a lot of hard work and very little return. We've probably applied for about 15 of them over the last 10 years, and each of them takes about 20, maybe 30 hours of our time, and we've been successful with just 2 of the smaller trust funds, and that's just paid up £5,000 each. So as you've heard from Deana, that you need to put a lot of time and effort in and apply for a lot of them, but don't expect great returns. 1 in 10, Deana said. I think 1 in 7 is our hit list with those. It's different if you know people on the inside and you can build up a relationship with them. And recently we've come across a couple of trust funds that came looking for us. And that's totally different. When that happens, you pull out all the stops, you get all your key people to work with them, and then you invite them to come to Africa with you. And that's where you get some serious funding from working with trust funds when you get to know them and they get to know you. Rotary has been of great benefit to us in the past for the motorbike ambulances. They've on several occasions been out with us to Africa. They have supplied 32 motorbike ambulances at £6,000 each. So that's £180,000 of motorbike ambulances we've had from Rotary. And one of the things I would urge you to do is to look up your local Rotary. They won't give you sustainable funding for your projects, but they will give you startup funding for a new project, and they'll raise the money for it and then invite them out with you, and you've got a friend for life. So I would really highlight Rotary as something that you should look at if you've not done so already. All of you have got a Rotary club in your region, if not in your town. The lottery and comic relief I've added on for completeness because we applied for them about 15 years ago and about 12 years ago. We probably put in well over 150 hours of our time combined as a committee to get a lottery bid, and we failed. We probably put in over 50 hours of our time as a committee for the comic relief bid, and we failed. So, by all means, have a go if you feel you've got a really good project and it fits with what they're telling you, but be prepared to put a lot of time in for no return. Look, the second half of my talk is all about sustainable funding, and I think this is, crucial to think about in advance. It can also help you to get going. Of course, you can use sustainable funding for development funding. You can't use development funding for sustainable funding, but you can do it the other way around. Now, I'm sure all of you as a charity are running events. I don't need to teach Granny to suck eggs, but a few of the ones that work for us, and we do them regularly: pub quizzes, dinner dances, including dinner dances on the boats in Cardiff Bay. That's a good one if you've never tried that before. Sponsored events. In our experience, the dafter and nuttier an event is, the more likely you'll have people giving you money out of sympathy, I think. So we don't just do a walk at Penavan, we do a midnight walk in the winter at Penavan, but we choose a clear night with a full moon. This Thursday coming in 2 days' time, we're not just going for a swim in Barry Island, but we're going for a swim in Barry Island in December. But we're not just going in the daytime, we're doing a night swim in Barry Island on Thursday of this week. The crazier it is, the more likely you're to get funding, really. Wine and cheese with a twist. What we do, we invite people to bring their favourite bottle of wine, and then we give out tiny cups. Everybody has a taste of each other's wines, and we all vote for the favourite. We all bring a chunk of cheese and cut it up into tiny little chunks. Everybody votes for the favourite cheese. And then the person that brings the favourite wine and the one that brings the favourite cheese gets a prize to take home afterwards, usually a bottle of wine, of course. But it's a great fun evening if you've never tried that. Concerts with our home-built musicians. We've done many of those. And talks, I've given many talks in churches, in schools, and to all sorts of clubs. And, you know, that brings in sustainable funding for you all. Right in the middle then is database. Now, every time you do an event or give a talk, you should ask people, are they willing to join you a database to receive you a newsletter? What you then try to do is to convert the people on the newsletter list into monthly donors. And this is the bedrock of our funding. Over the years, we've built up a donor base of about 100 people that give every month. We get gift aid back from the government on that too. And we've got probably another 100 on our newsletter list that are not yet regular donors. But having a database is essential to any small charity that aspires to grow. Then finally, the other one I would hugely recommend if you've not come across them before, we're in the middle of it at the moment, is the Big Give Christmas Appeal. Now, the way that this works is that you get your key people in your organisation to become pledges. At the moment, we've got £10,000 pledged by key people in our organisation. The Big Give then find trust funds to double that, and we've had it doubled by a trust fund, so we've now got £20,000 already. But to really start £20,000, you've now got 1 week in December every year to go to the public and to try to get them to match fund that 20,000 with another 20,000. Of course, we started small. We did it initially with £5,000, doubled to 10, and then we went looking for 20. But we've been doing that now for 4 years, and we've never failed to reach our target yet. So hopefully by this time next week, we'll have an additional £40,000 from the Christmas appeal. Now, again, the really good thing about the Christmas appeal is that everybody that gives from the public can be added to your database if they agree to tick the box that says, yes, I'll receive a letter from you, and then it's GDPR compliant. And the key to growing your charity is to grow your database from your events and your Big Give Christmas appeal. And then if you do get one of the big development funds along the way, oh, well, that's a bonus. Okay, that's me done.
Thanks, Geoff. Thanks for that. Yeah, I think that was a pretty comprehensive list of your fundraising strategy, and hopefully, yeah, there was something in for everyone. I think definitely lots to take from. Thanks, Julian, for sharing the link to the Big Give. Yeah, I've heard from others that have been successful at that as well. So that might be something to explore as a bit of a mixed approach. Great. I don't know. Have we had any questions? We do have time for questions now, a little bit at least.
We do, excitingly. We have one question anyway. So there's a question here from Kath, which is to Geoff, to ask, do you have risk assessments and do you have PLI, which I imagine is public liability insurance, for sponsored events? And if so, could you share details with us, please?
Yes and yes. I'm a GP. I usually write the risk assessment. I bring some medical equipment along with me, especially for the cold swim. But, you know, I'm taking my 2 grandchildren on the cold swim on Thursday, and they are aged 8 and 10. So we're quite light on the risk assessment rather than heavy, I've got to be honest. But we do have risk assessment. And of course, we have public liability. You've got to. You're crazy if you don't.
Okay. All right. Any other questions that people would like to stick their hand up or put something in the chat box? Certainly, we've had a great presentation, Deana, and also Geoff. This is quite informative and inspiring. Which
I think Letty has her hand up. Letty, go ahead if you'd like to ask.
You're on mute.
You're still on mute, Letty. We can't hear you. Bottom left, you see the
Have they taught you to lip read yet, Lena? That should be part of your skills training, I think, lip reading.
Oh, true.
Hello.
Hello,
Yay.
Letty. Yes, can hear you.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank you both, Deana and Geoff, for a very comprehensive information, especially for some of us who haven't done absolutely nothing to find fundraising. This is really a wake-up call. And I think I would like to, if possible, I would like to meet you both on separate occasions and on a one-to-one. Maybe I can also learn more about how to go about most things. I know that, the door is always open for us from Hub Cymru when we need it. But sometimes we forget that we've got that available to us. And it's so sad for me to come here today and say that I haven't tried to do fundraising on my own. So thank you for bringing this as well, Julian and Lena.
Happy to help, Letty.
Oh, thank you. So I'll be visiting you two both, yeah? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Geoff and Deana, yeah? Okay, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Letty. That's really good. Really good to hear from you. And great to have you here tonight. Jenny, I think you have your hands up.
Only to say, just for a little bit of fun as well, I used Deana's technique on PONT. And Geoff, you've undersold your success rate. Last year you had 15,000, if I do read your accounts correctly, on from does this ring a bell now? Cadbury Trust, Forrester Family Trust, the Coles Medic Foundation.
Well, the Coles Medlock Foundation are the big one. They're the ones that double our funding for the Big Give. We didn't approach them separately. All that we did was to provide, last year, it was 9,000 of our own, and the Coles Medlock Foundation matched that by 9,000, Jem.
There we are.
That's a very simple way of getting big funding from the foundations, is to come up with people in your organisation that will be the champions, and that will release an equivalent amount then, in our case, from the Coles Medlock. And last year, we then had 18,000, and we had to raise 18,000 from Joe Public in the week of the Big Give appeal.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. It's quite complex, isn't it? Fair play to you for having done it, but it's quite complex because you've got to get original donor sign up, then you've got to get your be matched appropriately, as you say, to the foundations. Yeah, I didn't realise those were some of your matched foundations, and then you've got to fundraise from the public on top of that in a specific time frame. So it's good you clearly manage it, but it's it's quite a thing to do.
It's quite a stressful thing to do.
You've done it, have you, as well?
Tried it, and it's a week of worrying whether you'll get the money.
You lose it if you don't raise the amount that you've targeted. You lose it. Okay, there we are. Thank you.
What about global giving? How do you join that, and how do you go about it? Does anybody have any knowledge of that?
I think you're referring to the donation platform, Letty, right? Global Giving. Yeah. Can anyone say anything about that? Any experience to share?
Yeah.
No. Oh, not that this account, Letty, I'm afraid. There is a question in the chat now, I think. Right, okay. It's again relating to Big Give. Lamek, I don't know if I say your name right, sorry. How easy or difficult it is for grassroots organizations in Africa to fundraise through the Big Give. I think it's probably. Oh, I don't know. I don't know that much about it, if I'm really honest.
Well, me to
It's
feel that, Lena. It's
yeah,
impossible.
Geoff, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's impossible. The Big
yeah.
Give is a British function, and it has to be a British charity that raises the money. You also get tax back on the people that give to the Big Give as well, which people in Africa obviously can't do. But like most of you, we have a partner charity in Africa that we work through. In our case, it was started off as PONT in Bali, but now it's Bali Coalition Against Poverty. And we give 100% of all the money that we raise in Big Give to them. I think that at the beginning, Deana made a very important point. None of the money that we raise as PONT is to pay for our trips to Africa, is to pay for our hotel fees and our food and everything. All volunteers with PONT pay their own way there. We have no paid staff in the UK now that Jenny's gone. Jenny was our paid manager at one point, but she was irreplaceable. So after she left, well, we did
Paid
have a
elsewhere. Don't do the dirty on all paid staff now, please.
So we
What a week.
tend to give all the money we raise, as much as we can anyway, to Africa, apart from public liability insurance, of course, so that it does really help in our fundraising if we can reassure our donors that too. But it's Africa that receives all of our fundraising in total. PONT doesn't top slice or take a percentage out of it.
Okay. Any other questions?
I wish I'd spent a bit longer on my presentation.
You never
We had
know,
a
right?
briefing off Lena to say she wanted to leave at least half an hour for questions, half of the time. So
No. It was
took you
20
on a
minutes. It
whistle
would
stop
have been.
tour for question time, and now you're not asking any questions.
Has anyone else got who's on the call, found good funders, and where did you find them, or who have you had good success with?
If you're not keeping them to yourself, Deana.
Yes.
Again, Deana.
I would say, don't be a shrinking violet. Anything, anyone that I meet will tell you I twist their arm about the charity. I talk about it. Always have cards on your person that say the name of the charity and the website and the phone number. And Geoff was talking about the Rotary Club. Yeah, talk to anyone. I try to never turn anything down, because you never know when somebody will give you some money. And even if they're just interested, you've made a friend that day when you've talked to someone about the charity. But I would say always be on the ready with that, what's it called, elevator pitch up your sleeve. Because I famously talked to someone from a Rotary Club in the Midlands on the train one time, and we ended up with books and a chicken rearing project for a school as a result. You just all the time you're thinking, oh, this might be a fundraising opportunity.
Thanks, Deana. I almost forgot to launch a poll, which I will do quickly, and then maybe we can get to your question before everyone disappears. It'd be really great to get some feedback on the session and how useful it was for you. Thanks a lot if you could fill that in. I'll leave it up for a minute. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Julian replied to Jenny's question about yeah. FCDO funding schemes. We are hoping so, yeah.
Yeah, I can say a little bit more, I suppose, is that we, as I say, we're kind of hoping that maybe more money from the UK government will be announced. There's no obvious sign of that happening at the moment. Clearly, the overall, as Geoff alluded to, then the overall money which is allocated currently to what is classified as international aid is quite low, and certainly it's lower than was allocated by the last Conservative government, which might seem a little bit strange to people, given Labour Party has generally been quite positive about that sort of thing. But yeah, there's a lack of money there. A lot of the money is actually being spent on supporting sanctuary seekers on their first year within the UK, because that's kind of technically allowed by the rules and can still be defined as international aid spending. But I think that the overall there's a problem here that there is not a great deal of enthusiasm for increasing the amount of money that is being allocated by the UK government to this sort of thing. And so I suppose we really should encourage people to, while doing practical projects, to also get involved in lobbying parliamentarians and politicians and making the case for increased levels of international solidarity and some money to back that up. And I think it's quite a worrying political space at the moment, where it seems that the government is maybe even a little embarrassed about the money that's going into things like international aid, and I do worry that unless there are people out there supporting it, then it's just not going to improve as a situation.
Thank you, Julian. It's not a very positive note to end on.
Yeah, sorry. The positive, I suppose the positive note is we have to get out there and make a positive case and get in there and really say this is something that we want to see happening.
Yeah. That sounds better. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, we've actually no important things have to be said. Thanks for that, Julian. And it's definitely time to end the event. Thanks. Big thanks again to Deana and Geoff for sharing your experience. One thing I should mention before we all leave, actually, we do have another training organized for the end of January, the 31st of January, which will be specifically around researching funders. So we have an expert coming in and who will share some strategies and tips around that. So you'll hear more about it, and I will follow up with an email with all the information and slides that you've seen today. Okay, all right. Thanks everyone for joining us today. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.